Good afternoon. I am here with Iain Dunvegan, the author of Scars and Wager. Both are available now, and I believe there is a third one in the works.
Oh, there certainly is.
Iain.
Very nearly.
Very nearly. I like that. So, Iain, may I call you Iain?
You may. Why not?
How would you describe yourself?
First of all, for those who haven't seen the Dunvegan post recently on Facebook, there may be a bit of a shock seeing my face and remembering the picture of Iain Dunvegan on the back of the books. I have to point out that that was professionally taken about 43 years ago, so there's a slight difference. A little bit. I can't help it. Just how I turned out. Once upon a time, I'd have called myself an artist craftsman because I designed and made furniture. But now it has to be author. As I say, as you pointed out, actually I've written nearly 5 books now altogether, 2 non-fiction. I tried writing articles, and my theme was the days when photography was wet. Not any takers with that, actually, and I do put it down to the fact that magazines don't really want to remember that photography was anything but digital. It's a bit like that with anything these days. People don't want to be reminded of the past.
So, on the back of that, why self-publishing?
Nobody would take me on. When I go to a charity shop, I head for the carousel where you've got the paperback books, the international bestsellers, and there they are. And I open one at random, and I begin to read, and as I read, I realise why agents don't jump at my ploy. Agents have to live, and so they have to give the people what the publishers think the people ought to have. So anyway,
So,
how it is.
Following on from that, how would you describe your work?
Fun to write and fun to read. In furniture design, when I did that, I was asked, if anything, what kind of influence. Well, it had to be the arts and crafts movement, strong, simple designs, prominent joints, exposed dovetails, and really, I mean, I can see my writing in those terms, actually, because I see it as a film. I see it played in my mind, in actual fact. So what I'm doing is actually reporting on what I'm seeing. So now, though, I have to influence, well, looking over my shoulder, as it were. It would have to be, say, John Buchan and Cyril MacNeill, Sapper, you know. They've got the nice simple stories, fun and excitement and adventure. With me, it's particularly, they are love stories. There are other things that I've begun to write, for the future, if there is one. But it's always love stories. The Inspector Duclos stories are all with a police and intelligence background.
So, how did you start writing?
Well, I was thickening in the middle. It was one time I really shocked myself stepping into the bath. There's a tall mirror on the wall beside it, and I saw myself, and I thought, God. So, Marion, my wife, suggested aerobics. I know you're wondering what on earth. You probably think I've lost the thread, but I'll get back to it, don't worry. She suggested aerobics as she was doing, and I thought, well, there's nobody going to get me dancing about in front of birds like that, young ladies. So I took up dumbbell work, and I got so far, but I didn't get as far as I wanted to, and I mentioned it to Marion, and she suggested aerobics. So I started to dance about in front of young ladies on the screen, that is, you know. And it was while I was doing that one time, I just don't know why it was that Marion wasn't with me at that point. We did it together. But this one particular time, I was on my own and absolutely unbidden. A complete Western story, because that really is sort of my genre in what I'd like to read. It just came into my mind, and I saw it the beginning, the middle, and the end. And when it was over, I made notes. So you're supposed to only write what you know. Well, I'm not very heavily into the police or intelligence, but love, I know. I'm an expert, right? So I'm all right there. Actually, with the other, there is a retired policeman, actually. The other day in a supermarket, I had this hand on my shoulder and I thought, oops, and I turned around like I'm being arrested by a policeman, an ex-policeman anyway, and he wanted to tell me how much he was enjoying Wager, as it was. That's the one he was looking at. So he didn't have any issues with it being police. There isn't a lot of police, but it's mostly love, but adventure, and of course it's because Duclos is very heavily used by the intelligence department. Police procedure doesn't enter into it a great deal. That's how I began. That's what you asked me, wasn't it? I eventually got there. Yes. I got there.
No, that's great. So you mentioned Duclos. So my next question, of course, is going to be, where did Duclos come from? How did he spring into your mind?
All right. Well, there was, some years ago, a very popular police series. And I thought, this seems good. So we invested 45 whole pounds sterling on getting this box set. And as we watched, I mean, my wife felt the same sort of way, but perhaps not as strongly as I did, I began to really be irritated by the central character. It's nothing to do with the actor. He was exemplary, as he always is. But I got to the point where I made a list of all the characteristics about the character that I didn't like, and there were a lot. And I did, on the other side, as it were, I wrote the antithesis of what he was on the screen. So, having done that, a story suggested itself. It more or less just came, and the name just came to me like the others do. But the thing is, if you want to do a reverse engineering to find out who I'm talking about, you could do that. I'm not going to tell you. The scaffold won't tell people what the Aintree Iron was, okay? So I'm not going to tell you who the character is that Duclos is the opposite of, the antithesis of. But, answers on a postcard, No, I'm not telling. I'm not telling.
So the name Duclos, why? Why Duclos?
That just happened as well. I really don't know. I've never heard the name before. I had to sort of look up how I'd spell it. Yes, it's got an S on the end, Duclos, like Duclos. So, Calum, because he was partly French, and I wanted him to be partly Scottish as well. My parents, my father was a Huguenot, way back in the past, obviously. My mother was from Dunvegan on the Isle of Skye. So I put them together in the first story. Duclos tells Penny Daybrook that he's a product of the old alliance and explains what that is. Of course, it was
France and
France
Scotland.
and Scotland. Yeah, the Scots were always hoping that if they wanted to knock 7 bells out of the English, the French would help. The French always hoped that if they wanted to invade England, the Scots would help.
Hence
It
the old
never
alliance,
happened, but
the old
but I
alliance.
did.
And therefore, so did Duclos. So my next question, of course, with the element of that being your parents' ancestry,
Oh.
how much of Duclos is you?
A large percentage. Calum Duclos is a jazz guitarist, a consummate one, and I do a bit. I can't get like that. I can't kill with one blow of my hand either. Duclos can do that. I suppose Duclos is the man I would like to have been, I think. I haven't had that kind of exciting life somehow. Furniture makers probably tend not to, you know, but...
So now you're right about it.
Yes. So there we are. That's how much is me? Well, a lot. His assistant, Penny Daybrook, is my wife. I throw that in for you. She had and has one of those oval faces and killer eyes and a tremendous shape. The name just came. I don't know why Penny Daybrook. I didn't think about it. I was thinking of an assistant and her name was there. Well, there we are.
And where is the action set?
Well, I will tell. I don't let on in the books, except that it's north. The old town that I refer to often is Newcastle on Tyne. That's where I was born. Or on the outskirts of it, anyway. Penny's home is in Lincolnshire. This house, to be exact, is where we live now. It features in the 3rd story. So I should be coming very soon to Amazon store near you. That's it.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time
It has
this
been a pleasure.
afternoon.
It really has.
And I look forward to reading the 3rd instalment and
So do I.
tenterhooks for it. So yes, thank you very much. And that it was Iain Dunvegan, the author of Scars and Wager, and the 3rd instalment coming up very soon. Good night.
Bye.